All right, welcome to the living room, Thursday night, 2921 Duff Road, Lakeland, Florida, where we're learning how to live healthy, even though we're living in a toxic world. And so tonight's subject is about the pioneers of cellular health and their research. I was recently honored and privileged to be a part of a training up at Hume Lake, Joshua Wilderness, and I sat down with some of the legends that were in NeoLife, and we chatted about some stories, and I love hearing the backstory because the backstory fills in the blanks to hear how we can actually move forward into our future. So we're going to start here tonight with the pioneers in cellular health research. Why is NeoLife part of that cellular, what? Pioneer in cellular research? Oh, yes. So we're going to get started. The first slide here, you're going to take a look and you're going to see one of the logos that NeoLife had. I couldn't find the original logo, but the actual original logo from 1958 is actually a Bible opened up with a sprig of wheat growing forth out of the Bible, and over the top has a banner called NeoLife. We're going to talk about celebrating 60 this year. It's 63 years of impact and why these formulas are based in nature and actually backed by science. So welcome aboard. Let's get going. Cellular nutrition, you only have about 75 trillion cells in your body. You are only as healthy as your cells, right? An unhealthy cell is very sick, and a healthy cell will actually replicate another healthy cell. And a sick cell will replicate another sick cell, and actually won't replicate, it mutates. So there's a difference between replicating a healthy cell and mutating an unhealthy cell. So we're going to take a look at what does it mean to say cellular nutrition, because I hear the buzzwords all the time about, oh yeah, bioavailability, this product and that product has bioavailability. What's the bioavailability of your product? Well, we're actually going to go a step further than bioavailability into cellular nutrition and what the difference is and what difference it makes for you and I as we are in this journey together to become healthier and more vibrant. Unhealthy cells versus unhappy cells. And healthy cells are happy cells. A cancer cell, as I talked about, is mutating, mutagenic, meaning it's unhealthy. So it's actually mutating and it's duplicating a mutated unhealthy cell. And because it's swimming around in a very toxic environment. Now, a healthy cell actually is in a very healthy environment and has all the nutrients that it needs to function properly. Now, cells actually are about energy because cells are energy packs. They're energy machines. They replicate and they duplicate, and they have to have energy to keep their machines going to replicate and duplicate and to produce energy. Well,
Yvonne, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we don't see your slides.
Oh, really? Okay, hold on a second. Let me stop share and go back to share, screen share. Somebody said that recently too. Join Zoom meeting, sign in.
There it is.
Okay.
That's her screen though.
Yeah, and I'm fixing to pull up my PowerPoint, which is right here. Now, can you see it?
Yes, thank you so much.
I have no idea what the difference was. How interesting. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back because it's really important for y'all to see these slides. Okay, let's go back. Here is the pioneers in cellular nutrition, health and research, some of the very first logos NeoLife had, and celebrating 63 years this year, a base in nature backed by science, and cellular nutrition. How many cells do we have? A bajillion, actually. But and you are only as healthy as your cells stay healthy. And then here is the slide of unhappy cells versus a happy cell. So if your cells are swimming around in toxic soup and not receiving the nutrition that it needs, then you're going to be in trouble, because your health, again, depends upon what state your cells are in. So let's talk about cellular nutrition. The basic building blocks of the body is the cell. So whatever your body is designed to have to build a healthy cell is what you're going to have to put inside the body. So the body doesn't need sugar in a sense of a lot of processed sugars in order to build a healthy cell. But it's the basic unit of life. One cell is the power pack basic unit of life. And health and disease begins with each cell. And the key to nutrition is nourishing the cell. So it's not actually what is bioavailable in the body, it's whatever actually reaches the cell and regenerates that cell to receive healthy nutrition that is required to build a healthy cell and keep a healthy cell running in a state of energy. Diseases like cancer begins one malfunctioning cell at a time. And what does every single cell in your body, what are the building blocks that the cells need on a daily basis? How about vitamins and minerals, enzymes, proteins, and lipids all play a role in maintaining the health of each cell. But we're going to zero in on one particular set of nutrients that plays a major part. And that's a 50% role are the lipids and sterols. They carry a heavy load in how healthy your cells are going to be and become. If the body is malnourished with these in regard to quality lipids and sterols, the cell wall gets compromised. So if the cell wall gets compromised, it will crumble under stress. Is anybody under stress in today's world? Absolutely. And how in the world can you build a house of health with starved, stupid, and constipated cells? You can't. So they will die or be taken down by an attack. So what are some of the things that we can do? Let's take a look about cellular energy. Nutrition is, you've heard this saying that nutrition is not what you put in the body, but it's what you assimilate. And so this class today is about, it's not only about what you assimilate, but it's about what your cells receive. Because you can have something running around in the blood that never reaches the cells. You can have something show up in the blood and say, hey, this is bioavailable, it shows up in the blood. But if it hasn't been proven to actually penetrate the cell and deliver the nutrient to the cell to get the reaction and action necessary to build healthy cells, then it's not cellular nutrition. We have only as much energy as the individual cells can generate. Our energy output depends on each cell's capacity to generate energy. So this is actually all about cellular health and regenerating energy at the cell level. You can actually get your body boosted with energy artificially by drugs, street drugs, prescription drugs, caffeine. You can overload on caffeine and get some false, superficial energy, but it's not real energy. It's not the kind of energy that is normally manufactured by every single cell in your body to produce a balance and a healthy type of energy. Life processes actually will slow down and fatigue will set in if your cells are not receiving the basic building blocks of life. Why? Because every cell is a basic unit of life. Cells on the body rival the stars of heaven in number. So how many cells have we got to feed? How many mouths have we got to feed? We got a whole lot of mouths that we've got to feed, right? There are over 1,000 different kinds of cells in your liver alone. And they all have to be fed and nourished. And remember, 50% of that nourishment and that load has got to be with lipids and sterols. We're going to talk further about that. All cells require nutrients, but again, 50% require lipids and sterols. They admit needing building materials and reject waste. So the cell membrane is made up of these sterols and lipids. And they know they have the intelligence force, and they know the language of life, and they know how to admit the building materials that build a cell and keep out the materials that are detrimental or destructive to the cells. And they also know how to open the door or release the chamber to eject waste byproducts. Because what happens when you produce energy, you always are going to have a byproduct to that energy. So again, you promote a healthy cell development or you demote. And if you're demoting, you're producing an unhealthy cell. So you have blood cells, you have bone cells, you have skin cells, you have nerve cells, you have muscle cells. And again, the basic picture, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand. Cells eat food. They eat nourishing food and they eat the building blocks that produce energy. And cells are the energy manufacturers for life. Wow. Nutrition in, waste out. So what has happened to the sterols and lipids, which comes from our grains in the past 100 years or so, especially the last 50 years? We have devitalized our food, especially that particular food that carries the 50% heavy weight of nutrition for every cell. See, wheat ranks among the grains for its nutritional value, but break the seeds open and the first day you lose over 42% of your vitamins, and 72 hours, 90% of the 30 nutrients are virtually gone. They're virtually gone. Over 90%, they're virtually gone. Nutrients become stable when they are baked. But how many people grind their own wheat and then bake their own bread, and as soon as it comes out of the oven, have a glob of butter ready and eat it? I tell you, that's the way to eat your grains, right? But not everybody does that in today's world, especially in busy America. Legally, for a food to be considered, you may say, well, my bread package says that it's been enriched. Well, for food to be considered whole grain, only 51% of its ingredients need to be from whole grain foods. What? You mean it can say whole grain on the label and only 51% is required to be from whole grains? What? A food can be labeled whole grain when up to 90% of the lipids and sterols, now remember, 90% the lipids and sterols carries 50% of the load for every cell in your body's nutrient load. Wow, 90% of the lipids and sterols have been removed during the processing. Unprocessed wheat is nearly 10% fat, lipids, and sterols by weight. These nutrients are essential for health. They are vitally important. Again, I can't stress enough, they carry 50% of the load when it comes to cellular nutrition. So let's take a look at the fact that removal of these grain oils has been numbered the #1 contributor to the failing health of Americans. I'm going to repeat that one more time. The removal of these lyophilized oils from our grain has been the #1 contributor to the failing health of Americans. These oils and grains are quite complex. They consist of both omega-3 and omega-6 in the perfect ratios, and grains contain a number of unique fatty compounds that each cell is bound by the membrane. These membranes construct out of a double layer of lipids, like a brick, which makes up the cell wall, is called a phospholipid, and 3 fatty molecules connected together. These oils are responsible for, guess what? All your hormone balances. Oh my, here's your answer to all the hormone imbalances that we're seeing from children to adults and all cycles and seasons of life. These oils actually are responsible for allowing all your hormones to communicate properly. Prostaglandin, which is tissue hormone synthesis, which makes our adrenals. And what is an adrenal? It's a hormone that gives you energy. When your adrenals are low, you don't feel like doing anything. You have no motivation. You have no inspiration. You actually, all you want to do is just lay around because your adrenals are getting drained and exhausted. So your body depends on food intake to make up these oils. See, your body doesn't naturally make these oils. You have to feed it into the body for the body to grab it, receive it as these building blocks of life. Hormones govern body chemistry for the brain, for the nerves, and hormones. And also, these lipids are responsible for hydration, keeping your cells hydrated, allowing enough fluid inside so that you don't become dehydrated, and not allowing too much fluid inside the cell so you don't get what's called dropsy, which is edema and retaining fluids. Detrimentally influenced or extremely benefited, your cells depend on the type of oils that you consume. So imagine that. When 30 years ago, when they told you low fat, no fat, and they told you any kind of oil was actually bad for you, and they switched us all out from healthy quality oils, and then they stripped out in the 1950s, actually in the 40s, our grain oils. This has been the #1 reason why Americans' health has been falling, failing, and faltering ever since this was done and this happened to our precious food supply. So this is where pioneers in cellular nutrition come into play, come into the rescue. NeoLife Tray and Grain Concentrates provides phytolipids essential to optimal health and cellular function, including omega-6s and omega-3s and phytosterols, including beta cystesterol, cytosterol, gamma oryzanol, and stemmasterol, and campesterol, plus octacosanol. Okay, I'm not saying those words very well. There's a nurse in the house. Maybe she can pronounce those words better. But they're actually the entire family. And that's why that's the only reason I even printed them out, is because I wanted you to see there's nothing missing. Everything that God put within grains to supply the building blocks for every cell is present in the Tray NN. I love the name. It means Greek. It means three, all packed in the power of one. NeoLife Tray NN provides plant lipids and sterols, which food processing has stripped from the staple foods that form the foundation of our daily diets. In the chain of life, and if you break the chain of life, you're in trouble. And the chain of life consists of your vitamins, your minerals, your enzymes, your protein, your carbohydrates, and the most important, the one that carries 50% of the load for cellular nutrition, is the lipids and the sterols. And if you take one of these away, as we're going to find out as we take a look at the research that's been done, then all the others will not synergistically work together and produce the bottom line of a healthy cell. When one is missing, they all suffer. As a matter of fact, when one is missing, they all suffer. Here in the chain of life, and it talks about the load that these lipids and sterols carry. They reduce stress, they help you to stay younger longer, and they produce higher amounts of energy. Wow. So Tray NN cell structure and function. It's coming from three of the most powerful sources. The most potent and powerful sources are from the grains, wheat, soy, and rice. The reason why Tray NN is made from these three sources, the oil is extracted from these three sources, is because it happens to be the most powerful sources. Wow. And it's the complete family, the sterol family and the lipid family. It's not an isolate. It's the entire family. And here, I love this close up because we talked about that it regulates the hydration, the channels and chambers of hydrating the cell, and it regulates the communication of the cellular communication and the hormone communication. So I'm going to do a little backstory here, and we're going to talk about how in the world did NeoLife get these grain oils? Well, let's take a look at a little story that I gleaned while I was up at Hume Lake from Mr. Bob Pearson and Leslie Hansen. We call it the Don Pickett God Encounters. Why? Because Don Pickett was the original owner of NeoLife. And I want to share with you how God set Don Pickett up for his future. Have you ever felt like things are happening in your life that are negative? And you're wondering why these things are happening to you? Well, guess what? These are negative things that happened to Don Pickett. But God had a sovereign plan in store that Don would one day connect the dots and then get on the vehicle that he would fulfill his purpose that God put him on this planet. And if Don Pickett hadn't done it, I don't think anybody here would be present listening to this information. So picture this. Don Pickett was a businessman. And at the time, in 1958, he had a wife that was pregnant. She found herself in the hospital with toxemia. Her life was being threatened, and her baby that she was carrying. At the same time, their little daughter was also in the hospital with pneumonia. So Don Pickett did something that changed the course of his life, and I believe changed the course of history. He got on his knees and he cried out to God. And he said, God, if you will save my family, who they tell me is dying, I will serve you the rest of my life. Well, guess what? God turned things around with his wife, who was pregnant with their little child, and his daughter that was in the hospital. At the same time, Don Pickett had a stomach ulcer that he was battling. Now, he didn't need the added stress of the life-threatening issues that his wife and his daughter had. But guess what? He was a businessman and he owned a chili hot dog stand in downtown LA. And because he ate his own chili dogs is a reason why he had stomach ulcers. So this was a come to Jesus meeting for Don Pickett. And so when God delivered his wife and his children, he turned around and he said, I cannot sell hot dogs anymore, and I can't eat them anymore. He sold his hot dog stand and he began to think, well, what else can I do? And so he began to sell fresh squeezed California orange juice. And he began to transport fresh orange juice all over California, until one day he was introduced to waterless cookware. And he learned the value of keeping your nutrients while you're utilizing a waterless cookware to cook your food from. So when he learned that he was losing a lot of his nutrients by overcooking in regular pots and pans, he got excited. He not only purchased a set of waterless cookware, and it helped to heal his ulcers, but he also began to sell it. And he became America's #1 salesperson for the waterless cookware, until one day, one person in one of his class asked a question. And Don Pickett couldn't shake this question off. And the question was, Don, what if the nutrition in your food is getting lower and lower, or not even there? He thought, I've never thought about that. He stored that question away in his mind. All this is happening in 1958. Until one day, he met Wally Wimmer. And when he met Wally Wimmer, then he understood, wow, I can see now that our nutrition is being taken out of our food supply. And because it's being taken out of our food supply, we're not getting it in our body, and it can't become cellularized. So back in 1958, actually in 1946, I believe it was, the Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital was given funding to do research on chronic fatigue and inflammatory issues. Wally Wimmer and his wife heard about this research, and they actually moved to the LA area to be a part of the research because his wife was so struck with rheumatoid arthritis that it debilitated her. So Wally Wimmer sold everything. They moved there, and he became a lab tech guy while his wife was in the program in the research, in the study group. And in that study group, they had access to a machine that we're going to talk about in a minute. But this machine was able to detect levels of hormones and levels of nutrients at the cellular level, not just in the bloodstream, but what was happening in the cell. So they tried 70 different mixtures of vitamins and minerals and vitamins and more vitamins and minerals. And absolutely none of them made a difference in the adrenals, in the fatigue, in the inflammation that these people were experiencing, until someone came into the university, saw the research and said, have you tried the lipids and the sterols? Because he knew, being in the food industry, that they had been taken out. And so they knew that the richest source of these vital nutrients were from soy, rice, and wheat. So they began to give the people soy, rice, and wheat grain oils, and voila, what happened? It reversed all their symptoms. And it worked. The Polarograph machine showed the significant difference. Now get the picture. This all happened in 1958. And the Polarograph machine was actually brought to the United States, and we'll talk further about that, in the late 1950s. The study was going to be shelved, though, because they were not able to patent and sell a food, and they went knocking on the doors of the doctors and the clinics, and they didn't want it. So they thought, oh, well, on to the next research, and they shelved it. Don Pickett at this time, remember, was ready for a trusted way that he could supplement nutrition. Wally Wimmer needed a businessman to join him in this adventure to help humanity to put back into their body these vital grain oils that had been stripped out. Pickett and his business partner, Wallace Wimmer, were following the leading edge research into chronic fatigue syndrome and the growing understanding of cellular nutrition. And they knew that this story had to be told. And they knew that if you put it on a shelf, no one would ever tell this story. I wouldn't be here today telling this story. You wouldn't be here on this Zoom call telling this story. Nobody would be here telling this story. It would have been shelved, bought out by Big Pharma, and squelched, put back on a shelf once again. They saw an opportunity, though, to improve the health while creating a viable business. And voila, the NeoLife Company of America was born in 1958. The very first formula that they added some enzymes, they added some vitamins, and they added some minerals to the mixture and called it Formula 4. Wow, here's a picture of Don Pickett giving Dr. Arthur First, that came on board in 1975, an award. So you can see that brilliant minds who are inspiring attract other brilliant minds who also are inspiring and who also want to spend their lives building and helping people rather than tearing down. Wow. So the very first distributor, they held a meeting and only one person showed up. Sound familiar? Have you held one of these meetings to tell people about these amazing grain oils and these amazing cellular nutritionals? And only one person show up? Well, Don Pickett and Molly Wimmer, they put ads in the newspaper. They rented a hotel room and only one person showed up. The person's name was Fred Aldridge, and he was desperate. He was a farmer, and he came because his wife was in bed from, guess what? Rheumatoid arthritis. And because she was bedridden, he came to the meeting. He heard about this research that had been done. And then he says, how do I get this? He literally wrote, I don't recommend this, but he wrote a bad check at that moment for a case of Formula 4. He left that meeting with a case of Formula 4 and began to give it to his wife. And then he went and deposited money in the bank so the check would be good. But 2 years later, the doctors could not find any sign of rheumatoid arthritis in his wife's body. Woohoo! Can you say hallelujah? Wow, that's incredible results. Whoa, so they're on to something. Let's take a look at Dr. Jaroslav Harovsky, and I think Nagar. Okay, Nagar can say it again. Jaroslav Harovsky. This was the Czech Republic scientist that invented the polarograph machine. Because if they hadn't had the polarograph machine, they would have never been able to identify what was happening at the cellular level. Folks, this is a moment in history. This is a time in history. And this is one of his very first machines. And then as it progressed and developed, the methods and experimental procedures of scientific research introducing nanotechnologies. What? Nanotechnologies? As a matter of fact, this technology paved the way for electromagnetic technologies today. Wow. Let's take a look. This happened in 1959. So think about all that is 1959, he won the Nobel Prize. And why did he win the Nobel Prize? Because he developed a machine that could identify what was nurturing the cell and what was causing cellular breakdowns. Wow. And in the study and the research that the Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital did, if they hadn't had the polarograph machine, they would have been clueless about how to help people. They would have been clueless about what was happening inside the body as they mixed together 70 different potions of vitamins and minerals. And then voila, they add the lipids and sterols, and whoa, they could see it. They could measure it. It was a measurable fact. It was a measurable science that they could identify the building blocks to the living cell were being met. Wow. So I also learned that while Jaroslav was building his machines, Hitler actually destroyed his machine, and he came here to the United States to reassemble it. And that's how they got a hold of this machine during this study, because they knew what was happening to people was happening on a cellular level. Wow. So here is a slide that I pulled from a scientist that did a PowerPoint on this subject. That what does this machine measure? It actually measures vitamin levels at the cell. It measures hormone levels at the cell. It measures a blood serum and cancerous diagnosis. It does a lot, trace minerals. So if they hadn't had this machine, they would have never been able to identify what's happening at the cellular level. Wow, this is exciting. So we're looking at hormones, especially because hormones is what gets you up in the morning, put you to bed at night, gives you your zippity doodah throughout the day, inspires you to keep on trucking, keep on living, keep on moving forward, and gives you that zip for life. So cell food nutrition, there are 3 essential oils, 2 phospholipids we talked about, linolenic and linoleic. Now, mind you, before I was introduced to NeoLife, I was taking flaxseed and I was grinding up flaxseed and I was consuming a lot of flaxseed because I knew something was happening at my cellular level, that my body's nutritional needs were not being met. Didn't matter how many vitamins and minerals that I consumed, it wasn't happening. So I got the bright idea. There's some oils and flaxseed, and I began to consume it. Helped a little bit, but I learned that the flaxseed only contains 2 of the oils. You need all 3. They work synergistically together as the complete family of building blocks for every cell. 1 steroidal, essential fatty acids, and then the other 50% of nutrients that's made up for the cell's building blocks is proteins. Vitamin E, for instance, shields your DNA and helps the mitochondria to carry out its duties. And then it's minerals. So it's vitamins, minerals, enzymes, protein. But what carries the 50% of the load is those 3 essential oils. So for instance, if it's your adrenal, if you have allergies, then okay, it's your adrenals. And these oils actually are the building blocks for helping balance and boosting your adrenals. If it's your thyroid, which is your endocrine system, then you'll suffer with weight gain or weight loss, or you'll be tired all the time and lethargic and not have any, excitement in life and not want to do anything, just lay around. If it's your, if you're low on these grain oils, then your pancreas could suffer. And then you've got compromised pancreas is digestion and diabetes. Wow. And the brain will manufacture fear. Now, does this sound familiar in today's world? If the hormones are not balanced, your brain literally will go into a cycle of manufacturing fear. Oh my goodness. So these grain oils are vital. They're super important. They're necessary for building blocks of the unit of life that God created, 1 cell at a time. Lipids and sterols are fats which are essential to life. They provide energy and house fat-soluble vitamins and many phytonutrients. Phospholipid are structural components of cell membranes, emulsifiers, precursors of acetylcholine, an important neurotransmitter for the brain. Other lipids such as omega-3 and omega-6 are essential for your health, playing roles for the brain. Remember, if the brain isn't getting fed, it will manufacture fear. Wow. And it will increase inflammation. Without properly balanced lipids and sterol levels, cells can become malnourished, which leads to cellular fatigue. Lipids and sterols play a vital role in the assimilation of nutrients by the cell. So as a matter of fact, they carry the heaviest load, and they're the ones that identify other vital nutrients to come into the body and enter into the cell specifically. They're the ones that can identify what's good and what is not good. if cells are unable to assimilate the nutrients, so in other words, if the lipids and sterols are not present, then guess what happens at the wall, at the gate, at the door, at the border? They're not able to let the good guys in. No amount of available nutrients. You could flood your body with B vitamins. You can flood your body with vitamin C. You can flood your body with other nutrients, vitamin A and E and D. But if these lipids and sterols are missing, then you're missing the component that opens the door and receives them inside the cell. Oh, wow. What a revelation. They need no amount of available nutrients result in optimal nutrition. Likewise, unbalanced lipids and sterols may contribute to a fatigue. Why? Because if nutrients are not allowed inside the cell, then it impairs the ability of the mitochondria to produce energy. Sterols are a class of lipids which include precursors to hormones. In other words, it's like baking a cake. If you don't have the sterols and lipids, you aren't making hormones. There are three things that make hormones: the sterols and lipids, protein, and minerals. If you're not getting these three, you're not making hormones. And especially the heaviest load are these lipids and sterols. As a matter of fact, they make cholesterol, which makes vitamin D. If you're not getting the sterols and lipids, you're not making cholesterol and you're not making vitamin D. Together, lipids and sterols make up most of the two-layer blanket that surrounds every single cell in your body. This is amazing revelation about cellular nutrition. Training grain oil concentrates. You know, I thank God for the backstory in NeoLife and how everything fit together perfectly for such a time as this. 1958. Wow, coming together, healthy, whole, finally addressing the cellular needs of every human being. My heart aches when I know that we have an entire generation of children being raised today without these grain oils, without the sterols and lipids. Their hormones are going crazy. Their fear, they are generating fear out of their minds. And they are a lost identity because of simple nutrition to give them sound cellular balance. The Trillion Cell Miracle. Treanin provides the phytolipids, including the omega-3 and omega-6, the phytosterol, beta, gamma, stemma, camp, the entire family. That's the point I want to make here, is nothing is missing. If that is why the most powerful, potent nutrients of these grain oils and sterols are found in soy, in wheat, and in rice. So let's take a look at some of the research that was done on these amazing grain oils in 1950s, before Wally Wimmer obtained the amazing formula, and then after they obtained the amazing formula, and 1960s and 70s and 80s and 90s, they continued the research. Why? Because it never stops. Knowledge is always increasing. Knowledge is expanding and abounding, but the basics of the building blocks of life never change.
44 pills a day to keep the bugs away.
Never change. I know, 44 pills a day to keep the bugs away. Columbus citizens, these are actual research that was done on our Treanin. This is Iowa State and Cleveland Browns. They wanted to find out if male testosterone and their vitality and their endurance and sustainability with their endurance affected these grain oils because they gave them vitamins and minerals and it didn't. And they had the polarograph machine to test. They had a valid way of detecting whether or not what was working in the cell and what was not working in the cells. The study showed significant impact. And so you'll want to take a picture of this study here. State stress on defense pill program has boosted the Iowa State college football. And here was some of the studies that was done on our Formula 4. A boost of adrenals was, let me see, let me move this up here, 175%. This is where when I do a class, and I always share that in this study, it was boost 175% your adrenals. And then your female hormones were boost 234%. And your male hormones were boost 155%. So when they did this study with these college football stars, they showed that the only difference in their testosterone was when they added these grain oils. And they added all these formulas of vitamins, minerals, and no, there was zero detection of increase in their testosterone. Zero detection of increase in their adrenal activity, estrogenic increase, or there was zero increase. The difference, they knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, the difference was these grain oils made the difference. Wow. So here's another picture of a study they did on rats. So they go to humans, they go to animals, and take a look at the research that they showed on the rats. Study showed a 50% increase improvement in nutrient utilization when grain oils were added to the diet. It doesn't mean the rat was fat. It means the rat could wrestle and win. It means the rat had muscle. And he also wasn't afraid of his opponent, that is. So you can see very clearly here, animals given these grain oils that are in tray and N concentrates showed superior development and better overall health than animals given to normal vitamin and mineral fortified laboratory chow. The upper animal received a grain quality oil concentrate in addition to the nutritional fortified laboratory chow. So they added the grain oils and voila, they got results. So these were studies that were done at the Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital utilizing the polarograph. These were studies that NeoLife has done after they obtained the formula on college football, on animals. Wow. Let's take a look at some more studies that were done. This is a study that we show most often when we talk about these amazing grain oils. And it's at Texas A&M University, down in the deep south of Texas. And they had, again, the polarograph machine to identify what's going on at the cellular level. And they discovered a 50% increase in nutrient utilization. So if you can increase someone's ability at the cell level to increase their vitamins and minerals, then you have changed their life. If you can increase their nutrient utilization, then you can help them become properly defend against lifestyle diseases, even bacteria and virus, and you can give them a sound protection of 90% reduction in risk That is huge. That is amazing. So you can see here that cardiovascular health was improved. Overall growth and development was improved when nutritional utilization is increased by 50%. And remember, I shared that sterols and lipids carry 50% of the load when it comes to cellular nutrition. If you're missing these grain oils, you're missing out on 50% of your nutrition. It's just flushing, going in, going into your bloodstream, flushing out. Most of it doesn't even get into your bloodstream. It just goes out like a bedpan bullet, clunk, clunk, clunk. So let's take a look at some more research that was done on these amazing grain oils without treanin, with treanin. Adrenal gland activity. Wow. Remember, it boosts 174%. This one here is ratio growth and development. And this one here is to oil or not to oil. Is there any more question? Is there any more question about whether or not we need these grain oils? No, because it has been proven over and over again, validated, verified in multiple research that what we've got here can change your life and has impacted history. And you know what? We're the only company that has it. I'm going to say that one more time. We're the only company that has the complete family of all the lipids and the sterols. Wow. We're the only company that's got all this research to back the validity and the necessity of having these grain oils. So I want to share now a little bit more of a backstory about Don Pickett and why Don Pickett was what I call a constitutionalist. What do we talk about when we say constitution? It means strength. You think about strength. You think about stability. You think about credibility, right? A strong constitution. Someone that's not easily persuaded or swayed over or taken down. Somebody that knows when they're right, they're going to take a stand. We're looking for constitutionalists right now across America, but I won't go there right now. So Don Pickett was a strong constitution. He had a strong constitution. So I'm going to share with you a couple of the stories that I heard from Bob Pearson. There was a time in the 1970s when the FDA and the Federal Trade Commission tried to shut down the protein supplement industry. Why? Because there was a specific liquid protein being sold that was killing people. Don Pickett heard about this legislation and this law that they were going to pass. And he stood up in a meeting in a crowd of people and said, no, not only no, but hell no. I'm just quoting. Hell is a place, but not only no, but hell no. Don had a strong constitution. He knew when he knelt by his bedside and he prayed, God, if you'll save my family, I'll live for you. This journey, you have given him almost the keys to cellular nutrition through the NeoLife formula. So when they started to threaten our protein and our other valuable supplementation, he went and hired the best lawyer out of Chicago, Kirkpatrick Dillon, to fight the FDA, and he won. We need some of those today. Just rise up, stand up, and speak up. Don Pickett, during this time, commissioned everywhere he went to write letters to the FDA. He signed petitions. Every single day they were writing letters, and he was orchestrating the team members to write letters, write letters, write letters. And they signed petitions and sent them. During this time, the FDA was out on a witch hunt. And so Don Pickett had to outsmart the FDA because they were going in and raiding their facilities. So he had to pack up all the ingredient manufacturing our protein in a semi-truck, and he had to order them to move from location to location to location to location to keep them from invading and confiscating and raiding what was rightfully ours, until the law spoke up on our side in this lawsuit. So we have Don Pickett to thank, because if it wasn't for his fortitude and his strong constitution, number one, we would not have the grain oils today. We would not have cellular nutrition today, and we would not have our quality protein today. Let's give the rah for Don Pickett and being a man of God, true and honest to his words. I'm going to share a little bit of information about what happened in the 1970s. This was an article that I pulled. Sudden death in adults without serious underlying heart disease has emerged, complications of a liquid protein diet. So I got this straight out of the FDA from 1977, and talking about heart arrhythmias and people having sudden heart attacks. And they were actually identifying that they were dying of starvation because the protein had no real nutrition in it. What? Liquid protein diet disaster. I found this online, and the liquid is said to taste dreadful, even when mixed as suggested. They were willing to pay high dollar for this protein. Do you know why they were? Because doctors were prescribing it. Did you hear what I just said? Doctors were prescribing this liquid protein. Oh my. Doctors were prescribing this liquid protein as a diet, as a weight loss diet program. Wow. And this was the results. Wow. So Dr. Lynn has now, and this is a clip that I pulled out of a newspaper article saying one doctor says, oh, I don't think I'm going to prescribe this liquid protein anymore because it's getting a bad rap. And the problem was the doctors were on the board of the manufacturers that manufactured the protein. Ding, 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 ding. Sound familiar? And then they want to punish the good guy, shut the good guy down because the bad guys are allowed to run free with no boundaries. Oh my. Wow. So I want to share with you something that I found while I was doing research in this that kind of shocked me, but it didn't shock me. And I'll share why. There are Don Picketts in the world, and there are Greg Picketts in the world. Now, I heard the story about Don Pickett having a son named Greg Pickett, and Greg was in charge of the protein manufacturing. The SAB detected some things in the protein that they wouldn't put their seal of approval on, and they brought it to Don Pickett's attention. Don Pickett called his son, Greg Pickett, into his office and sat him down and said, son, people's lives depend upon us delivering quality nutrition. He said, oh, Dad, get over it. You can make a whole lot more money and they'll never know the difference. Don Pickett said, no, NeoLife is my family. They will know the difference. I can't do this. So he gave his son one more opportunity to make right choices. Greg Pickett was brought into question one more time. And for Don Pickett, that was one more time too many. And Don Pickett then, in his last days, gave the company to Jerry Brassfield and his brother. Why? Because Don Pickett knew that Jerry Brassfield was a man of honor and integrity and character. And he would hold on to the quality standards that he knew that his son had failed to grasp the understanding. So I am going to read to you an article that I found about Greg Pickett, because Greg Pickett went on to produce the #1 selling protein shake in America called Muscle Milk. It is sold in the GNC stores. It is sold, it is sold in the GNC stores. It is sold in vitamin shops. It is sold in Costco. It is sold in Walmart. It is sold online. It is sold in sports centers all around the world, actually. And guess who promotes it? Coca-Cola, Nestle, they all promote it. They transport it. They all get a piece of the pie. And I'm going to read to you part of the article that I read the other night that I went, wow. This is Greg saying that he tweaked the formula of his new protein shake to make it less like dark chocolate and more like milk chocolate, which we in America associate with candy. In other words, he's making it taste like candy. He was nervous as he waited for the test version to come off the production line. Finally, a plant employee stopped by his temporary office and said, according to Don Pickett, of course, "Man, oh man, this is the best protein drink I've ever run through my equipment." Now, mind you, his full attention is on taste, not on quality, but on taste. Why? Because his full attention is on profits. Pickett's new desk at Flavor Insights was lined with blue jars of flavoring agents. Now, why would you need tons of flavoring agents? How many here saw the research of all these flavoring agents being in a lab with aborted fetal kidney cell tissue is how they get these flavoring agents? So here is Greg Pickett bragging that his desk is lined with blue jars of new flavoring agents so that he can make his protein shakes give you the bliss point that Americans love, just like candy. As he raggled me with stories of his father. Guess who his father is? Can anybody guess who his father is? Don Pickett, the founder of the dubious old school vitamin supplement company, NeoLife. What a slam. I was shocked to read this. Wow. His own son saying, my dad and his foolish ways. Wow, he was old school vitamin company. The smell of chocolate overtook me. It reminded me of visiting the Hershey chocolate as a kid, except this chocolate was less deep, fake, cloying, felt like it was clogging my nostrils, was a smell I couldn't acclimate to. Each whiff was as strong as the last. The chocolate smelled nothing like any protein drink I had ever had. It was too specific. It smelled like potential, like all of the things that could have ever hoped to taste like chocolate. Because, folks, it wasn't real. After Muscle Milk released its ready-to-drink shake in 2004, Pickett said the CEO of MedRx, and these are all the protein shakes, by the way, that actually come together under the same manufacturing, who inspired him to make a ready-made protein drink themselves, according to Pickett. He said, "You showed the way here, bro. You made protein taste better." So in other words, we have a choice in life to become Don Pickett or Greg Pickett. I am so grateful for the constitution of Greg Pickett's father. I am so grateful that he did not budge on his commitment to quality and value, because the rest of the world is drinking protein shakes that is harming them, that is made from trashy ingredients that will continue to harm them, but taste great, actually taste like something they've never tasted before because it was conjured up in a lab. Wow. Let's talk about wisdom from the grave. Nature alone cures. Florence Nightingale, founder of modern nursing. Natural forces within us are the true healers. Hippocrates, father of modern medicine, 400 BC. Germs do not cause disease. The real sense, something happens in the body to allow the germs to become invasive. Anton Bechamp. Each patient carries his own doctor inside of him. Albert Schweitzer. The germ is nothing. The terrain is everything. Louis Pasteur on his deathbed. The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will involve in his patients in the proper use of food, fresh air, exercise. That was Thomas Edison. Wow. Wisdom from the past. What kind of legacy will we leave in the world today? I mean, there are people promoting all those protein shakes and vitamins, gummy bears, all of that stuff that tastes great, but it is not reaching your cells. It's going in, going out, and sad to say, as it comes in, it makes a deposit that can be dangerous. So let's take a look at some of the pioneers that NeoLife has done over the past 63 years because of their knowledge and research in cellular nutrition, their focus on cellular nutrition. Starting with Tran. How about fat-soluble vitamins are water miscible? Vitamin A, vitamin E, omegas, lecithin, carotenoids. What makes it water miscible is what makes it cellular nutrition. So it reaches the cell. How about threshold technology? So it actually floods the cell receptors over and over and over again for 6 solid hours with our vitamin C and our vitamin B. How about we actually purchased the sun-kissed research on bioflavonoids in the 1960s. Let me make sure that, yep, 1960s. Why? Because we knew that there were a vitamin C was more potent and powerful at the cellular level if it contained its bioflavonoids. So it was NeoLife that stepped up and purchased this research. And we were the first company in history to ever deliver a Neoplex vitamin C from whole oranges, the entire complex of the orange. And every time that our vitamin C was tested, it contains more potent high levels of vitamin C than any of our competitors' vitamin C. How about chelated minerals? You want to reach the cell with a mineral? It's got to be double chelated according to Dr. First Technology, as he was the expert in chelation. You want to reach the cells with all the oils? They need to be cold pressed. Why? Because the carotenoids, after they had done all their research and extraction, capsulation, then they retest Are there active carotenoids in this capsule? They found that there were no carotenoids in the capsules. And they discovered that the oxygen in the room sucked the antioxidant out. So we had to develop the nitrogen encapsulation, the oxygen-free nitrogen encapsulation. We did that. That's our technology in order to deliver real cellular nutrition. How about the artificial stomach? Why? Because we wanted a pre-digested protein that not only shows up in the bloodstream, but hits your living cells with amazing building blocks of 22 amino acids to go to work to build all the house of health that every cell needs. How about the first human food source of CoQ10? The bioavailability of CoQ10 was very low, meaning it did not reach your cells. But ours was amazing research from human whole food sources. And so the cellular contact of CoQ10 is very, very high. And people that were taking CoQ10, because we didn't have one at the time, were still not showing in their blood and in their test for CoQ10. But once they switched their brand, cellular nutrition arrived. CoQ10 arrived at the cell, not just found in the blood, but found at the cellular level. That's what this is about. Not just found in the blood, but found as a building block to every single cell. Power Pack Nutrition in the Pro Vitality, you would have to consume 12 pounds of grains, 80 pounds of dark colored fruits and vegetables, and 10 servings of salmon oil. Wow. But the difference is you don't have to digest it. It's already pre-digested and ready to hit your cells with these amazing building blocks of nutrition. Keep calm and take NeoLife in the future. And now, this is the message that we have to bring to the world: cellular nutrition. What we've done in the past, we will continue to do in the future. I'm going to end with this video and then open for Q&A. So let's go.
Have you ever felt tired or sluggish, wishing you had more energy throughout the day? Have you ever wondered why so many Americans all around you are sick from chronic disease? A recently published 27-year global diet analysis actually found the answer to both is a lack of true whole grains. Does that surprise you? Let me explain why. Many of our cells are literally starving, and here's why. The whole grains that we buy at the local grocery store have been stripped of their vital nutrients and oils to extend their shelf life. In addition, within 48 hours of grains being ground into flour, many of the nutritional benefits actually oxidize out if they're not consumed while the flour is still fresh. Unfortunately, with these critical components of whole grains are missing from your diet, your cell membranes become inflexible and can't perform their vital functions. Nutrients can't get in and waste can't get out. You're actually starved of what you need to thrive while toxins are building up in your cells. NeoLife's TreaNN provides these missing oils from freshly ground grains and is produced in an oxygen-free environment, so they'll keep until you take them. It's actually the world's first and only whole grain lipid and sterol supplement. So what do these lipids and sterols even do? They actually make up 50% of your cell wall lining in every single cell in your body. That can be as many as 100 trillion cells. And if you get healthy amounts of these grain concentrates, your cell walls remain soft and permeable, allowing your nutrients to get in and your toxins to get out, which is exactly what you want. It really is the foundation to good nutrition. So this energizes your entire body by helping your cells to become their flexible best. It was shown that when TreaNN is present in the diet, nutrient utilization efficiency and cardiovascular development both improved. This increases your energy by allowing your entire body to function more efficiently at a cellular level and to get more nutrient value from everything you eat. It also eliminates the #1 risk factor for death in the United States. A friend of mine jokes that everyone she knows who's taking NeoLife is hopped up on energy. And TreaNN is actually the reason why. Treonine is found in Pro Vitality or can be purchased completely on its own. So get started today at neolifefam.com.
All right. I thought that was a cute way of ending this class. So I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Every Thursday night, Healthy Living Inspirations. As we know tonight, we've learned that cellular nutrition is where it's at. And if your nutritional program and plan doesn't reach your cell, then you're wasting your money. Change your brand, you will change your life. Woohoo!